It's often been said that the problem with making things idiot-proof is that someone will always come up with a better class of idiot. In reality, my last video on rape avoidance was really about how the probability of being raped is a string of factors, some of which you exclusively control, and some of which you don't. In essence, it was just a risk-hazard analysis of rape. Sensibly minimizing the factors which you exclusively control is just bloody common sense, as to do otherwise would just be to needlessly expose yourself to higher risk. However, when people are driving on emotion, the reasoned argument takes the back seat. And boy is this true, the second you mention the subject of rape. Now, by far the most common straw man that was invented was that I said that women were responsible for rape.
Thunderfoot's 18-minute-long YouTube treatise on why women need to be careful of what we wear and how we behave in order to not be raped.
Which, of course, I never said. You can minimize your chances of getting raped. Do everything that you can to minimize your chances of getting raped and still get raped. You can minimize your chances of being killed and eaten in the wild, but still get killed and eaten. But it will minimize your chances of being in such a situation, while allowing you the greatest chances of achieving your desires. Amazingly, after all the time I spent spelling out the factors which you control and the factors that they control, and that it was only common sense to minimize the factors that you control, many, after of course the mandatory name dropping,
Phil Mason, aka Thunderfoot.
Because nothing says, I want to maturely address your argument, not the person making it, then smearing their name all over everything. Many seem to struggle with the wasp analogy.
So this is just great advice, ladies. If you are confronted with a potential rapist, you should channel your inner wasp. That potential rapist should not know whether you're just buzzing around for a bit before taking off or whether you're about to stab him to death with something popping out of your butt.
Look, munchkins, how many years have you been human? Is it so difficult for you to understand that a large portion of what you communicate to others goes through body language? It even transcends species. For instance, how can you tell this cat isn't happy without talking to it? And humans use body language too. And this includes telegraphing, albeit sometimes inadvertently, to potential attackers whether you would be a good victim,
the small step to the side, your subtle death grip on your belongings,
or if you wouldn't.
Get away from her, you bitch!
But like I say, when people are driving on emotion, the reasoned argument takes the backseat. And to these folks, merely suggesting that there are factors that women alone control that modulate their chances of being raped is exactly the same argument as the rape apologists. This is just this bizarre world you enter where people argue based on emotion rather than reason. One of the more popular ones was that Muslim men argue that women should wear sheets over their heads to stop men from lusting after them, and maybe raping them too. And they said that I was arguing that your clothes make a statement about your intention, and sending mixed messages is likely to lead to confusion. And then they said, well, therefore you're making the same argument as the Muslim men. Well, to a very minor degree, yes. But this is like saying that alcoholics cause self-harm by drinking, and this doctor advocates that I should take a little red wine with my meal. Therefore, this doctor is advocating self-harm by alcoholism. Just because an Islamic society does something to a counterproductive extreme does not in itself make that action entirely harmful. They might chop the hands off thieves, but this does not, in of itself, make punishing thieves a bad thing. Or maybe the most archetypal example of mechanized genocide in our time was based on the idea of genetic purity. But this does not, in of itself, mean that it's a bad idea to screen embryos for things like Down syndrome. The bottom line is, I was stunned that people even bothered to argue the point. Your clothes are at least in part a statement about you and your intentions. I mean, really, does anyone even contest this? I mean, come on, this is why people dress up smart for job interviews. Look, let me make this simple. Really, really simple. You know, for all those batshit crazy feminists who think that advising people about risk minimization is actually the same thing as saying that they deserve to be raped. What is wrong with you people? Saying better safe than sorry is not another way of saying you deserve to be raped. That is to these people saying, oh, that's a work area there, you better wear a hard hat. It'll help protect you from falling objects, both those that are dropped accidentally and even the odd one that's dropped on purpose. And them saying, what are you saying? That I deserve to die if someone drops something off a building? Are you saying that it's okay for them to murder me by dropping something out of my head because I didn't wear a hard hat? Unprotected heads don't cause accidents. People dropping things do. Don't tell me to wear a hard hat. Tell them not to drop things. Or it's like saying, be careful. Check for cars before you use the zebra crossing. And them saying, don't tell me to look both ways, tell them to pay attention to the road. What are you saying, that I deserve to be run over in the street when it was my right of way? Why are you making excuses for these bad drivers or people who drive like jerks? Or it's like putting a sign on the subway that says, beware of pickpockets. Better safe than sorry. Well, that clearly means that anyone who did have their pockets picked wasn't wary enough, and it's clearly saying that they deserve to have their pockets picked. I mean, this sign decisively and clearly is supporting pickpocket culture. Look, I really can't make the risk-hazard, cost-benefits analysis any simpler. The only difference is, here, the hazard is a rape, and not any of the things that I've just listed. If you can't understand this problem from these simple metaphors, then at the risk of sounding harsh, you're screwed. You're just incapable of understanding risk-hazard analysis. But deep down, I have this suspicion that most of the people who are disagreeing here just never watched the original video in the first place. I mean, I did briefly get involved in the exchanges on this video, and it ended up with me simply shaking my head in disbelief. I appreciate the strong personal story, but ultimately you use a strong emotional appeal to push an argument that is fundamentally wrong. Further, it's an argument that, short skirts and rape thing, that is completely addressed in this video. So what common sense precautions can be taken to reduce your chances of being raped? Well, for violent rape, if you spend some time reading accounts from serial rapists and murderers, they tend to choose their victims based on body language. This is rarely anything as facile as wearing a short skirt. Here the cues tend to be not so much how you dress, although this is communicating things about you. It's, do you have the body language of someone who would make a good victim? If you do not accept that there are steps that you, as an adult, can take to acceptably reduce your chances of being at risk, then you are simply taking needless chances with your own safety. This is universally true, not just when the risk is rape. To which the reply is, that's the same as saying that someone shouldn't drive in order to reduce the risks of getting in a car accident. Sure, that's true, but it's way out of proportion. Same with going out at weekends, etc. You need to raise the bar of when it's appropriate to impose part of the fault on the victim. To which my reply is, did you watch the last line of this video that makes exactly that point? You know, lock your windows, yes. Brick up your windows, no. For comparison, when I go into the wilderness, I know there are predators there. It's just an inherent risk that I incur when I enter that environment. But for the wonders that I have seen, for the joys that I have experienced. It's a gamble that I happily accept. Having said that, it would just be stupid of me, in the extreme, knowing that there are such predators in this environment, to not minimize my chances of becoming a victim. Or maybe a more simple analogy, I lock my windows for security. But to brick them up for complete security would be dumb, as it would just rob me of the pleasure of living in this place. You know, lock your windows, yes. Brick up your windows, no. At the risk of sounding rude, the problem with making things idiot-proof is that someone will always invent a better class of idiot. And I'm sorry about that, but it can be just frustrating when you make a point that the video makes as a reason why it's wrong. To which he finally replies, "Sorry, I didn't watch the video." "Sorry, I didn't watch the video. I came here from the one janitor." Peace? I mean, really, at least be sporting about this and limit your criticisms to things that I actually said.